everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my guest today is Monica Brown. Monica is the special education director at there you go. Start that over. I'm just going to start from the beginning. Good grief. There you go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my guest today is Monica Brown. Monica is the special education director at Providence Hall Charter School, and that is in Harriman, Utah. Monica, welcome. I'm having issues with a frog today. I don't know what it is. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so sorry. I'm glad you're here. I'm not glad about the frog in my throat, but I'm glad you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about Providence Hall Charter and your role there, and maybe a little bit about your history?
Sure. Providence Hall we're the Patriots. Our colors are red, white, and blue. So we're kind of patriotic.
Nice.
We have a JROTC as part of our campus, and they're a big part of what we do. So I think there's some country pride, patriot pride, we say. I'm the special ed director. It's a K-12 school. I support our special ed teachers and paras here and there. Bell, it's school day.
Yeah.
We do, let's see, I do a lot of training.
Mm-hmm.
My first year, they called me the muscle, because when we have tough parents, it's my job to come in, and I'm 5'2", so that doesn't say
that's funny.
Like, if
that's
you're
really
calling
fun.
me to be the muscle, like, we need some training. So I get to go in and be kind of the voice of reason. I bring the rules, I bring logic, I try to check my emotions at the door so that I can come in and kind of be more of a calming presence. And the calm matters because IEP meetings can get very emotionally elevated. And sometimes we get sucked in, and it's a good check for me to be like, whoa, I'm feeling the emotion. We need to take a breather and get back to logic and just remember that we're all here for the kid. We all want what's best for the kid. And let's check our egos, let's check our emotions, and come back to the data and say what's best for this kid. And things work out.
That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. It's a leadership role. I mean, obviously, you're very good at your role as a leader. I mean, you really are the one who is the voice of reason when there's high emotions. You have to be the one that kind of settles it. And let's face it, moms are mama bears when it comes to their kids, right? I mean, we're wired that way for sure.
Teachers, I feel like, have a sense of mama bear with these kids too.
True.
Very true. It kind of becomes a mama bear versus mama bear,
Yeah, that's not good too, right?
But if we bring the cub back into the room, sometimes we say, okay, what's the cub? Bring the cub. And if the cub is there, metaphorically speaking, or literally, if the kid is in the room, people act differently. It's really funny to see that.
Yeah. I always say, people will say things on social media they would never say to your face.
Right.
For sure. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like depending on the situation. We've talked about conflict resolution and how, everybody comes at things from their worldview, right? And that's just it. And as the person that brings reason back into the room, you're the one who has to kind of set all of that aside and go, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Let's focus on the reason that we're here, which is that child.
Yes.
Which is why we're all here, right? Education is about the kids. Let's keep it about the kids, right? And that's why we're doing this podcast, right? We want to celebrate because education has become this political hotbed mess, and that's not what's happening. What's happening is we are caring for our children, and that's the part that we are. And leaders like yourself are out there fighting that battle every single day. So tell me some of your wins. Let's celebrate some of those wins. The point of it, right, is what would you say are some of the best wins that you've had?
Wow, that's a big question. I don't know that wins are looked at in special ed like they are in other places, right? Like they're not big, they're not frequent, there's no trophy. The one that comes to mind immediately, I guess, is we have a little girl. I want to be careful not to give too many details.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah, it's hip and FERPA. We want to be respectful.
Right. Obviously, I won't use names or anything, but just descriptions make me nervous too. So we had a little girl who, when I got here, this is my third year here. So my first year was 2022, summer of 22. And in that year, we had a teacher at the elementary who taught our severe class, like the intellectually disabled kids, right? And the law is very clear on who qualifies for that classroom. And in getting to know my job, I would observe different teachers. And I went in this classroom and I saw a little girl who had some physical disabilities, but I didn't see educational challenges. And so I started to ask questions like, why is she here? Can I see the file? And the teacher got really defensive. And it turns out the girl has a degenerative disease. Eventually, as an adult, she will be very affected. But as a child, her mental capacity is that of her peers, but she's adorable. And the teacher wanted her in her class because she was adorable. And so I started digging into the data, and I started taking my own data, and I eventually called a meeting. It took about 6 months to get all the pieces together and the gen ed teacher to be on board to get the data that we were looking for. We pulled her out of that placement, and it was tense and it was ugly. And we offended the SPED teacher because she wanted to hang on to this little girl like she was her own. And the parents were upset, and not upset necessarily, but like just the tenseness of like the teacher being upset and the parents wanted to console her. And I was in the middle, and I was kind of the bad guy in the meeting. We made the call. We pulled her out. We just gave her the required academic minutes she needed, which was like 20 minutes a day. And I came back to my office just like, what did I do? What if I did the wrong thing?
Yeah, what if you did that? Yeah, second guess yourself.
And I had to run an errand, and I went to Walmart, and I literally parked. I parked in the parking lot. And I looked up and I thought, that woman looks familiar, but I never remember how I know people. So I kind of, She noticed me and she came after me and she said, I'm her mom in that meeting 2 hours ago. She said, thank you for doing that. That was so hard. It's the right move. And I have followed up with her through the years, and she's thriving.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
So
that's a win. That's a huge win.
That's a win, but it doesn't, it's not like a trophy on a pedestal.
No, it is it is a trophy in her life, you know?
And
it is in her life, absolutely. And in her mom's life. And those are the wins. Oh, see, you make me emotional. I love it. I love it because it is about the kids. It's about day-to-day wins like that. And the fact that you as a leader saw a child that was not being served properly, and nobody was being the bad guy. You know, this teacher loved this child, you know, it just wasn't the right placement for her. I totally get what you did. And that's a huge win. And that's congratulations. I will say I'm proud of you because it matters. I mean, it really, and those things, you know, programs are great. And, you know, talking about this program and that program. And we had lots of people come on and talk about programs that they're doing and how they're helping a lot of kids and stuff. But those individual wins, I have them too. You know, I, as a therapist for 31 years, I'm an SLP. I have them. And, you know, when you get them, they stay with you. They certainly do. And knowing in the long run that this child is in a better place because you chose to act. It's easy not to act. It's
for sure. Complacency is everywhere. Definitely. But my favorite letter in the IEP is the I.
Yeah, individualized, right?
Yeah, when people come to me, well, and sometimes I cut off the I's, like it's individual.
Yeah, individual.
What does this kid need? You know, they'll bring me the data, and I'll say, okay, the data says it's trending this, but what do they need? What is the kid? What is the disability telling us? Like, let's go to the kid and what they need, not, well, this is the curriculum, or this is what the peers are doing. But how are they doing compared to their peers? Let's bring it back to the person. Because I think we get easily stuck in our own like mental fiction of they can, but they won't. Well, do we know that? Like, let's sit down with the kid. One of the things that sorry, I'm totally dominating.
No, you're fantastic. This is great. This is exactly what I want you to do. So please keep going.
One of the things that I found when I got here is my teachers would bring me questions and I would say, well, what did the kids say? And they'd say, I haven't talked to the kid. And I'm like, pause. This is the kids' plan. We need the kids' input. Well, what are they going to tell me? And I'm like, let's sit down with them. Like, If the kid is 14 and above, they have a transition plan and we need their input. So they should, one, know they have an IEP because some parents don't want them to know. So we have to tell them. And two, like, what do they want? Do they want to be in an honors class? Do they want to go to college? Do they want to become a welder? And they'll say, I don't know. And I'm like, get them in the room. This is their plan. This is their future. They're becoming adults. So let's bring them in.
That's great. Because I do this. When I was treating as an SLP, I always told my kids my goals. If I felt like they could understand the goals, these are the goals that were set at your meeting. These are the things that we're going to work on with you, but you need to know what they are so we can work on them, and some of them got it and some of them didn't, but it was like, why are we not telling them? Why are we not addressing it with them? I mean, everything we're doing is for them. Let's tell them. Let's keep, yeah.
Although it's as though it's a big secret, right?
Yeah. And it shouldn't be. Really, it really shouldn't be. It should, these are all the things that we're going to work on. And the ones that understood, they were excited about it. And boy, when they met those goals, when I'm a checkbox person, they say that there's studies that show, when you finish a task and you do that checkbox, there's endorphins that are released, it's like, yeah, I'm like, I love those endorphins. I've never been a drug addict. I've never done drugs, but boy, I like those personal drugs in my brain telling me that I did a good job. And kids need that. They need to see that, and so I've seen it in the students. Wow, I got it. I got it today. And how fantastic is that when their face lights up? And that's the reason we do what we do, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. So, so let's turn a little bit to your staff. So how do you support them? I mean, I know you're helping the kids and I know, but burnout's a big thing. Staffing's a big thing. What kinds of things are you doing for the people that you support?
That's a good question. I try to make it, again, very individualized. I reach out to them regularly. I visit each campus a couple times a week. I make individual appointments. Sometimes it's specific. Sometimes I just drop in and I say, hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always offering to cover for them. Like,
present. You're present. Yeah.
If you need to go have a snack, if you need to take a walk, they've never taken me up on the coverage.
Mm-hmm.
But I always say, look, I know what it's like. I've been there for, I don't know, coming probably up on 15 years in the class. And so I have skills and they'll come to me, like my office door, I have an open door policy. They can drop it. If I don't have stuff on my calendar, I'm like, come in, we'll talk about it. I'll have people stop by on their preps that'll be like, hey, can I just run these numbers by you? What do you think? Or sometimes it's them after school saying, today was a struggle and I don't know why it was a struggle. And so we like talk and break down their day and I'll say, do you have boundaries to protect you? And they'll say, well, I could have done better here. And I'll remind them, I will come sit with your class if you need something. And they're like, just knowing that helps me.
Right.
So I try to make it about them because one, it's a lonely job. Like the SPED director job is, you feel like an island. There's no one to go to. You make hard calls and then you doubt.
Yeah.
Like running into parents in the parking lot that make you go, okay, maybe what I'm doing is okay. So if I didn't have teachers calling me or stopping by or having me come over during their preps, I'd be pretty lonely.
Yeah. But you have that open door and you are approachable and you're showing them that you're available. And those are the traits of a leader, somebody that shows they care, it's important. Those are all really important things.
I don't feel like a leader. Leadership is the hardest job I've ever done. I had no idea what I was getting into when I accepted it.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and I think one of the best things you can do as a leader is exactly what you're doing, is showing that you're human, that you're not putting yourself above them. You're open and available. You're willing to share your knowledge. You're willing to problem solve with them. There's a podcast that I listened to when I was first starting my own company, and it was by Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. And he has his own company, and I got so much from him. And one of the things that stuck with me, because I listened to his podcast, every day I was like picking one and watching, just trying to make sure that I was going to be a good leader. Right. And one of the things that he said to me that I will never forget, and I think I actually said this in another podcast. So kudos to you, Donald. You're getting another plug from me.
Shout out.
Another shout out, right? For every one time that you say something negative to somebody, you have to give them 4 positives just for it to be even. Just to be even. And I'm like, that has just, and I have a 1 to 4 or 4 to 1 thing on my, as a sticky note on my computer, because it's just like, so you have to be, your words matter, and, you have to be, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. That's from James in the Bible, but James 1:19. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, right? But it's just absolutely true. What you say and who you say it. And we do shout outs all the time in our newsletter for that very reason to our staff, because we want them to know, hey, we're proud of you. We're proud of what you're doing. And that's exactly what you're doing. When you're bringing them in and giving them that positive feedback, it's important. It's really important. Anyway, okay. So last question. And I ask this of everybody. If you could miraculously solve one challenge in your school, what would you want to solve?
Forgive me if it's a 2-part answer.
That's okay. You're allowed. No rules.
I didn't really go into my background when you asked me before. Briefly, I have some mental health experience in my background. I used to work in the hospitals in the acute and residential units of behavioral health. And I've worked with all ages in that capacity before I came into special ed. And so a lot of what I do is looking at the whole child approach. And I really think that academics and behavior could be handled with better nutrition, better life choices. Not to sound political, like I'm not trying to get into
I get it. No, I get it.
But for example, I talked to one of my teachers 2 days ago. We were going through some data, and this little girl scored really strong average WISC, really good achievement scores, and we were looking at reevaluation. And I said, tell me how she performs. And the teacher said, well, she kind of like struggles, like you'll ask her a question and she kind of sits on it a minute and she doesn't give you a quick answer. And she struggles to get the words out, and her verbal comprehension is strong and her processing is strong. And I said, I would bet money that this is brain fog due to a food intolerance. And she went, what? And I said, really, like gluten and or dairy could affect some brain fog that affects how quickly we can process information and regurgitate it. Has nothing to do with brain health, but just like getting through slug. And she said, I spent years in the health industry. I'm going to look into that. And so we talked about some names to access and what that could mean and how we could approach those conversations with the parent. Because I firmly believe that the sleep we get, the breakfast we eat is going to affect all the things. And I walk down the halls and I see these giant, I like caffeine, but these kids are taking 200 milligrams of caffeine in before 8 o'clock. And that's going to have a crash. That's sugar. There are just so many things that if we just brought it back down to some basics, I would probably work myself out of a job.
Yeah, which would be amazing, right?
Which would be amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. Having those main, things met, and nutrition. Yeah, for sure. Fantastic. Well, let me tell you, this has been such a great conversation, Monica. I have truly enjoyed speaking with you. I really thank you for your time, taking the time to do this with us. Last thing, where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about Monica Brown or about Providence Hall Charter?
Probably the most information you'll find about Monica Brown is on the providencehall.com website, because I don't have a public persona. I probably have some Facebook or Instagram account that I never use.
Never going, yeah.
There's nothing about me out there, but providencehall.com has our school and has information about our SPED program, and probably all you're going to find on me.
Great. Well, that's okay. That's okay. They're going to see you on this. So there you go. Now you have a personality online.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for what you do. I love the idea of aligning, Christian beliefs with wholesome activities and growth for the human. So thank you.
Yeah, never been afraid of that. I always tell people, it's like, even though we work with public schools, my faith is just a part of who I am as a human being. And it just drives what I do,
Yeah.
We're all humans. We're all going to be, you know, I'm not out there beating the bush evangelizing people, but I'm going to show you the love of Christ because it's in my heart. That's it.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
side note, like, again, sorry to dominate.
No,
That reminds me
absolutely.
of a story. Yesterday, I was meeting with one of my teachers, and she brought up a kid who is moving at the end of the year and has had some trouble. He's in junior high, and he's had some vape trouble, and the whole IEP team is really concerned. And I said, look, you and I both have a firm belief in a higher power, and we know who we are. Big picture.
Right.
I said, you've got a short period of time with this kid. I said, forget the reading and the writing, find opportunities to help him believe in himself.
Believe in himself.
Teach
The
him
social, emotional
that
stuff.
his power and his worth is so much greater than what's happening right now. I said, every opportunity, find a way to help him feel that he has more value than he can comprehend, and just have those exchanges. And she just looked at me like, I can do that. And I said, there are appropriate ways you can do
Yes, there
that.
are appropriate ways. Yeah.
And she said, are you sure? And I said, here I am broadcasting.
No,
I said,
it's okay.
we're not going to preach
No.
any kind of, belief or whatever, but everybody should know that they are of divine worth and that there's no price to put on that. And if he only takes that message, his life could be affected someday. And she's like, okay, I'll try that. So I just really love the idea of bringing, bigger beliefs into the growth of a child.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all wonderfully and incredibly made, and that is, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, and people will get to talk to you, and even if you're careful, when you have that kind, I mean, it just shines through everything that you do. And that's the piece that, it's like, yes, but I'm never gonna tell somebody that their belief is wrong. It's just, this is mine, and this is what I believe. And I think, I don't think Christians have always done it correctly, but again, it's not for me to judge what someone else has done too. God tells me not to judge them. Yep. Right. Okay. Even ourselves, we're not even supposed to judge ourselves. Okay. That was a revelation for me. What? I'm not supposed to do that either. So anyway, we will leave it there. Thank you so much, Monica. And I'm so looking forward to having this podcast out there, because we do need to tell people how incredible it is to be where we are and what we're doing for the students. And I love that. I just absolutely love that. So thank you.
Thank you.